Yeah. Um, it's your main man, Jug, Architect Beats. I'm here with my partner.
Mike D, Architect Beats.
Yes, and welcome everyone to the Architect Beats music business podcast. Um, we've started to do the podcast on a weekly basis, along with the articles and so forth things. So, if you want those things, you can always go to our website at www.architectbeats.com. We've also started a new Facebook group, um, and that's going to be having the content, and they'll have some more exclusive interactions and engagements in our Facebook group. So, that's going to be Facebook/ Architect Beats Music Business group. So we got a few nice topics today, right, cuz?
Yep, yep.
And there's a lot of things going on, and a lot of people talking about a lot of different things that you and I are going to be able to kind of touch on today. And I think the first thing that you kind of said that you wanted to talk about was this whole dynamic between independent versus major, right? Should I go independent, which everybody is basically doing, independent versus major. Everybody's saying, "Hey, you don't need a label. You could do it yourself. You could be like Russ, or you know so I wanted us to talk about that, and then kind of give the pros of being with the major, the pros of being independent, because we have firsthand knowledge of both, and we'll be able to kind of let people know what that is. But before I jump into anything else, hit the like button, subscribe. Do that housekeeping. If you're not familiar with us, we're platinum producers. We've produced for every iconic artist in hip hop that you can probably think of, and let's jump into this.
Yes, sir. Let's go. First topic, again, it's the independent versus the major labels. So a lot of people been asking, you know, which is better, and that actually depends on your situation. That's what it really comes down to. What's your situation looking like? One of the obvious things is support. Support as an independent artist, there's a lot of things you're going to have to do yourself. Obviously, there's a lot of legwork you're going to have to do. There's a lot of connections that you're going to have to make on your own. And if you don't have what Jug would say, a strong team, if you don't have a strong team, if you don't have the finances, the resources, um, the go out and get it spirit, to be able to get up and run around and you know pretty much pay for every single thing and go for broke. um, you're not gonna stand a chance. Um, so that's a rough, quick overview of the indie. As far as a major, um, the thing about a major is that you'll get that support system that you need, but you still have to do the legwork. There's some things that the major does in a background that will allow them to place your music in certain places, certain arenas that will be beneficial. You'll be able to rub shoulders with certain, I would say, certain artists or certain executives or just certain spaces that could help your career, um, especially endorsements and depending on the type of deal you do. So, it really depends on where you are in your career. If you're in the beginning, middle, where you are, and what your system is internally.
Yeah, that's you said a lot, and the whole indie versus major debate. Um, I don't think you can really compare the two, right? And folks talk about the ownership, and then they make the examples of the few people that are successful in their independent journey. Um, if you've never read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, right, it talks about the unique circumstances that people may have been in order to succeed, right? So basically, they can say, hey, you could put you and you could put me in the exact same circumstance, but we're not going to have the same outcome, right?
Right.
And the way that the talk is that, hey, you can do this like everybody else does it, and I think that's not I don't think it's honest to make it feel as if you can do what some other indie artists do. The first thing that I would say for an indie artist versus a major is that if you're an indie artist looking to really be successful, like you said, we'd have to have a team, right? And then somebody in that team has to be really technically savvy. I don't know. A lot of artists aren't that, right? To be really technically savvy in terms of social media, in terms of algorithms, in terms of Facebook and marketing and those type of things. And that's really the difference maker between the indie artists that you see that's going to be successful versus the ones that aren't. There's somebody that's behind everything, driving it from a technical standpoint. That's able to kind of put together the technical portions of what needs to be done.
So you basically need a geek or a nerd on your team.
Like say it again. Say it again. Like you're going.
All of those nerds that you were dissing in high school is who you need, to make this thing go.
Yeah, and I think there's a narrative out there that the artist who's strictly into their music, not every artist has that ability to switch hats and say, okay, I'm going to switch from making the music, booking the studio, and then now we're talking about having to market the music, which is basically more than making the music itself.
And then
right?
and then there's administrative work. Like that is like really time consuming and some tedious work to go, get on there and do all of that.
And that's the thing too. It's like, who's going to do the administration and everything else related to it? Now, when we go to the major side, right, you still have to do some of that administrative, right? Because they're not going to do it all, especially the way the deals are structured now, as far as like, distribution with some label support, right? So in terms of the label support, you're not going to have, as an independent artist, you're not going to have access to the sales data. And when I say the sales data, there's different analytics that, it's not in a DistroKid or a TuneCore back panel. That's the first thing. The second thing is that there's going to be another level of sales support that the label can support with the retailers. That's another thing that you may not have access to. The other thing with the label is now you're going to have access to marketing. And now you can, if you have enough lead time, right, which is the lead time is the space of time that you would have between the time that you release and the time that you upload the music to the time it's released, then you can have the marketing team, and those folks now can put together a marketing plan with a quote unquote budget if you have a budget. And then you have somebody that's going to actually work and drive your marketing to help, perpetuate some of those streams or sales. Yes, you can do that yourself. But another thing that they don't tell you about is that some of the costs are significantly reduced if you're going through the major versus if you're doing it independently. You're going to pay more independently to do promotions through Facebook, etc., than if you were going through a larger major label.
Pretty much you get a discount.
Right. There's a discount in the back end that no one talks about, right? So not only are you going to spend more, that's the first thing, you're going to spend more. Two, you're going to have to run it yourself. And what else did we say? And we said that, you'll have to have somebody that's technically sound to run this thing.
Right.
And it's not that's really the challenges. Now, are we saying that you can't do it as an independent artist? I'm not saying you can't do it. Everybody's different. But let me put the disclaimer out there. The disclaimer is like those midnight infomercials about exercise. You see somebody lose a whole bunch of weight in 30 days and they'll say results will vary. Right. So it's like, so it's the same type of shit. It's like, they're like, hey, come on, you can do it independent. You can do it. And it's like, You can, but you need support. Yeah, you really do need support. Someone needs to be able to guide you to navigate through this thing. And, you know, if you got the time to watch 10,000 YouTube videos, or if you got the time to pay every guy for their supposed course, right? Every supposed expert on their course. And I think we talked about that last week. It's going to be a real challenge. But what I would suggest, the solution to this is you got to do your research, right? And you got to do your homework, and you got to be able to get the best information that you can get. And if you can partner with somebody who is currently doing it, or someone who is semi-successful and can kind of guide you through that, that would probably be the best choice, in my opinion.
Okay.
And then you segue into the owning of the masters. That's the next talk about owning the masters, and you need to own your masters with the independent. What's the thought on that?
It don't mean nothing if you don't know what to do with it. You know, everybody own our masters, and then they sit on it. Like, you got to know what to do with it. You got to know to take the master and be able to license it out. You know, to exploit it, to be able to get it in, you know, TV shows, movies, video games. You know, you got to be able to, you know, create opportunities with it in order for it to give you a return. You know, if you're not doing anything with it, then you kind of just, you know, hoping somebody will do something with it. You're hoping that somebody will contact you. You got to take that and be proactive in getting it out there, the music, in order for it to be really beneficial. And if you can do that, you will be able to live off of those earnings for a very long time.
The talk of the ownership of masters is like, you know, everyone, you know, now is the narrative of ownership, right? Everybody wants to own their masters. Everybody wants to say that they're the owner or the boss or their masters, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like you said, like, if you are not privy to the exploitation of a master, if you're not able to get that master placed in certain places where it's going to earn revenue, like you said, now what are the areas that we're talking about? We're talking about just regular radio and regular radio type of situations, whether that be now playlisting, etc. If you're not able to exploit it via movies, right? TV, movie, film, those same type of opportunities,
right?
If you're not able to then exploit it again via, maybe like you said, through technology, which would be either video games or various, you know, apps, etc.,
commercials,
etc. So if you're not savvy, or if you don't have a network to exploit your master in that fashion, right? Your master doesn't have the value that you think it has.
Right.
I'm not going to say it doesn't have any value. I'm just going to say it doesn't have the value that you think it has. Because if it's not something that can be exploited, if it's not in an NFT, right? You know, if there's not someone willing to pay for it, then it doesn't have the quote unquote value that you think it would have. And owning your master at this point is a mood issue. And I'll talk about that. And I want to talk about that even some more in the cases of even with us in the recruitment of, like, say, because, you know, we're always having our situation open to new artists and new producers. And a lot of times when I'm talking to new producers, you know, everyone is concerned about the ownership. And it's like, oh, you know, we don't want to sign to anybody where we'll have to take, you know, a portion of this or a portion of our ownership of what we're producing and so forth and so on to join with someone else. And, you know, the issue that I'm seeing with a lot of these guys is like, as our attorney would say to us, it's like, what's the point of owning 100% of a pie that no one eats?
No. Yeah.
Right. Like, you can own 100% of the pie and no one is eating that pie. It's like, so at least put yourself in a position where you can earn off of, you know, 80 or 75% of something versus 0% of everything. Right. And I don't know if people really understand that. Like, then the whole ownership of master, it just seems to be another, I don't know. Yeah, like it's like a fad almost. Like, it just sounds good that everybody should own their masters. It sounds good. You should own your masters. And I get it that you really should own your masters if you know how to fucking exploit it.
Yeah.
You know, if you know how to exploit it and make money, then yeah, you should own your masters.
If the company that you're working with knows how to do that, and they could get all of these opportunities that's going to generate an income, that might be the better situation for you. Again, you know, these things are based on your own situation and what you're willing to do. You know, so it's not really always a blanket thing. It comes down to your situation and your type of deal.
And then the other issue too is that, you know, let's say you do get with a company that's able to exploit your masters, right? Okay, they're able to exploit your masters. Now you're able to learn what they did and who they went to exploit and earn some income, right? So now, you know, depending on how you structure your situation, now you can, you know, those deals don't last forever, right? If you're in a record deal, it may not last forever, but if you can see where they exploited it, and if you can build those relationships with those folks where they exploited it directly, then when you re-up, right, then you can say, okay, you know what, I know how to do it myself, right? But if you're not familiar with what it takes, it's like, what are we even talking about? You know what I'm saying? It's like, what are we talking about? Like, in the end of the day.
So the ideal thing would be to learn. Even if you was to hook up with a major, you need to learn these things. You need to kind of like be in the office, picking their brain, knowing those contacts, knowing what's going on, so that if you ever decide to go independent or do something else, now you could use those same resources. You could reach out to those same people in order to do it.
If I was to say maybe the most beneficial portion of joining with the major is the network. Is the people that you meet in the label, the people that the label connects you to as far as third party vendors, who's doing what, who's doing influencer campaigns, who's doing this. Like, this is a whole plethora of information that you wouldn't have any access to. Right? Or, you know what I'm saying? Or a whole network of people you wouldn't have access to. So now it's your job to, okay, who's this person? Who does this? Okay, let me get the information for this person. So when you finally decide that you're going to do something on it, you know, when you finally decide that, okay, it's time for me to go totally independent, you know who to see, right? You know who to pay.
That should be the goal, though. Like to use those resources to set you up for to be independent. You know, you should use all those resources, and then when your deal reaches a certain, you know, time, hopefully you would have taken the time to learn everything that you need to learn to get those contacts and be able to go out on your own. You know, it's great. It's a great thing when you can be on a major label and get a whole lot of success. And then it comes to, like, think about if Drake was to go independent now, like 100% independent.
It would cripple the music industry. and it would cripple the music industry because you would have everybody thinking they can do what the fuck he do. One, you don't have the resources. Two, you don't have the music. And three, it's like, you know, you wouldn't have the network, right? Like, so yeah, somebody like that could go independent.
Picture Drake being able to go directly and make deals directly with no to get 100% of everything. You know, because of his popularity, because of who he is, because of what he may have learned throughout the business. You know, that would be incredible.
It would be a game changer, and if I'm Universal, I'm paying him everything to avoid that. Right? I'm paying him everything to avoid that potential shift in, you know, the business, because it could shift the business, and you would have a lot of folks that would pray that, you know, a lot of the big wigs would probably pray that he wouldn't be successful, so that they can say, "See, you need us still. See, you need us."
Right.
You know, and but I don't think that he would be jumping off of Universal anytime soon. I think that he's in a very, very comfortable space.
Right.
And the music is fantastic. As long as the music is fantastic, that's the biggest hurdle in my opinion. So I want to switch some gears to some producer stuff, right? Because we are the platinum producers who have been able to watch the producer business in some cases decline, and in some cases decline, and then in some cases ascend. Right? And when I say ascend, meaning like now producers who aren't finding the quote unquote major placements, they're still able to make a living off their art, right? So through things like maybe like Airbit and BeatStars and Track Train, a few other places. Guys have the marketplace to sell their music to independent artists, and they're at certainly different kind of rates. So I wanted to talk about that. Like, what's your thought about like as far as like producers and beats that you see for lease for $25 and BeatStars, et cetera, et cetera.
It's interesting because it appears that there are so many different producer categories now. It seems like there's producers that create beats for other producers. There's tracks, stems, all of the parts, drum kits just for other producers, loops just for other producers, and then there's producers that's also selling exclusive beats for $20, and that's a little coming from the era we come from, where producers normally could get anything between $1,200 to $50,000 a track. It's kind of like a culture shock, when you start hearing that. But on the other hand, like you said, there are a lot of producers who are making a solid living, just selling $25 here, $25 there, and just continue getting that in. And they would have to be pretty consistent. The question is, what happens when an artist is successful off of a $25 beat, that's exclusively sold out, that's sold. And there's some other gray areas, when you have a leased beat, sent out to multiple people and one person is successful off of it. What happens when they run back and want to, get the exclusive, so there's a lot of gray areas and question marks when it comes to leasing and exclusives, and it could be a problem if you have a successful record and you can't even get the exclusive right to it.
That's the danger of it all, right? And that's the reason why, for most artists, I would always suggest if you're going to buy any beats that you're going to exploit publicly for commercial purposes, that you should be looking to get the exclusive rights. Once you've decided that you're going to put money into it to promote it, etc., you should have the rights to that music. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to take a lease, like you're saying, exploit it till it blows up. And we've seen the cases where guys take a lease from a producer, and you're trying to reach the producer, and the producer is not even responding. Like, wait a minute, there's a major artist on this song. Like, they're not even responsive. And I've seen that in too many cases where it's like, you know how much money you're leaving on the table, and but what's happening is that the thought process is, let me sell the beat to as many people as I can sell it to, and with the hope that folks will put it on YouTube, and it'll go on YouTube, and then there'll be some content ID revenue that'll be earned. And the content ID revenue is what folks are using to compensate for what the true intellectual property is supposed to be revenue, right? You if the song isn't registered properly, you might not get any publishing. Which that's what people aren't really realizing, is that if the artist just registers the song themselves through ASCAP and doesn't put you on it, it'll be like hell for you to get yourself on that song, right? And it'll be like hell for you to get retroactive royalties, if any, right? Then we're talking sound exchange. We're talking a lot of different areas where, you know, you as a producer are going to lose out on revenue. But I understand that, hey, you know, we're selling these beats, and I'm not sure if I'm 100% on board with it. I don't think I've ever really been 100% on board with it. Like BeatStars and these guys are big now, right? They're really, really, really big. And what I thought would have happened once a service for producers have gotten so big that they would unionize the shit. Right? You know, like I thought at this point, it's like once you have these platforms that's big, like now we're supposed to be talking, if we're talking about, you know, stopping the exploitation of the producer, like now we're supposed to say, okay, we got all these producers on deck, got thousands of producers on deck. Now we're supposed to say, hey, the minimum for a track should be this. Right? Across the board.
Right.
Right? This is the baseline minimum, right? You can charge anything you want above it, but it should never be below this particular number. The same way the streaming companies and the labels get together and they determine what the royalties are going to fucking be. This is the same thing that these guys should be doing. They should be.
But that's in any business, though. If you look at it, you know, if it's going to be the same similar product, they're roughly the same price across the board.
It should be the same thing across the board. It shouldn't be a situation where this guy can charge $15 for his tracks and the other guy can charge $25 for his track. And what the producer doesn't realize is that the music business was supposed to be designed for, you know, you do the work one time, right? If you know, if I do the track, it gets produced, it goes out, and I'm supposed to earn off of that music, that one work, in perpetuity. As long as it's released out there, I'm supposed to keep earning money. Now in this situation, it's like if you don't sell a track, you don't get any money, right? So if I'm not selling a beat this month, I'm not making any money. And you know, and I know, styles change. Kits change. You got a lot of things that just continue to change, and you don't have an infinite well of dope music. You're gonna have a time frame. It might be a year, 2 years, 3 years, where everything is fire, and then, you know, shit starts to decline, shit starts to change, and then, you know, you may have been selling a whole bunch of beats in year 1 and 2 and 3, but you may not be selling a whole bunch of beats in year 10.
Right.
You know, and then you haven't been able to monetize the shit that you've sold for the first 10 years.
Right.
So now you're stuck. You know, and I think there's a level of exploitation in that, right? And then also the content ID situation. That's not the end all be all, right? Like you know, it can't be a situation where we're depending on these independent artists to register your songs with ASCAP and all of this type of stuff. You're not going to get paid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you're just not. Yeah. You're going to be sitting here looking for your checks and like, okay, because I can go to ASCAP and I can register a song in any way or fashion that we feel. That's what no one wants to talk about.
That's really a gray area, and I said this in the last podcast about, you know, when we spoke about the current state of the music business and how, you know, it's like the Wild Wild West in certain cases. It's like you're able to do certain things that's not ethically, you know, correct, and you get paid off of it. And those are one of those things you can, and, you know, I hate to put this out there, but you can, you know, put information, you know, for a song and collect off of it, and it's not necessarily yours, you know.
This is real. There's no checks and balances.
So now the actual owner will have to catch you, and then after they catch you, they'll have to go through a whole bunch of loops and sue you and do a whole lot of things to get it back.
And let's and repeat that, because people, you have to get sued.
Yeah, you got to get sued. Like, you can't even contact the distributor or the DSPs and say, "Hey, this is mine." They're gonna be like,
"Look,
that's what you say."
Right? You can be credited on the damn thing, right? You could be credited on the damn thing, and remember, what's happening is that with these online situations, there's no, there's not like those hardcore contracts, right? That you'll be able to need, that you'll need this person's signature, maybe the last four of their social, right? That you have a true agreement that you can be able to send to these folks and say, "Hey, I got a contract with this person. I'm supposed to be credited on it. I need the And then most times they'll tell you, "Listen, you'll have to sue them for that because we've already paid it out, and we're not gonna do whatever we're gonna do." And then of course,
you could go on YouTube right now, and there's certain songs or whatever the case may be. You could look in the credits and it'll say a totally different name under the licensing or whatever, and you're just like, "Who are these guys?" And it's really crazy. Like, somebody could really be collecting, your income if you're not
right. And that's the other danger of it. But with the producers and the low cost beats, what I would like to see, more of a coalition, where we would baseline a lot of this, the cost of it. I think it's great for producers to be able to have a marketplace where they can sell their music independently without having to worry about the small number of major label placements, like fighting for those placements in order to make a living. Right. So I like the fact that, you can be out here and you can, still make a living off of your art. What I probably don't like is, I think that the stuff should start to be more unionized. I think there should be more of a situation where there's a baseline for what producers can earn, and then we have to work out the situation for automatic song splits, automatic publishing information, maybe automatic, and I might be giving BeatStars mad information that they shouldn't have, but they you know what I'm saying, like excuse me, there should be like a portal where once you sign up, or once you take a beat, once you sell a beat, and once you sell a beat, it should be automatically registering this, automatically doing this, automatically doing that, so that none of those areas are going to be left undone, right? Especially if an artist is deciding to exploit a producer's track. Okay, you putting it out through DistroKid. Okay, I need this number, the ISRC. I need this, I need that, I need that, right? And if we don't get that information, then your lease should be null and void. At that point, like, we need to get that information so that we're able now to go back and do our Harry Fox, do our sound exchange, do our ASCAP or BMI, etc., and to making sure that you're not being out of the loop. Because right now they're kind of using like an honor system. Like, you got to make sure the producer's credited. How do you know that? How can you credit that person if you saw that beat 1,000 times?
Right.
Or 100 times. How can you do that? You can't keep track of that type of shit. So, and I know a lot of producers like, I just want to make the music, but listen, you want to be in a position where you can earn off your music passively. You don't have to keep worrying about breaking your neck to make 10 beats every week or every day in order for you to make ends meet.
I mean, yeah, it sounds cool now when you're young and you have the time, but you gotta you want to think about down the line when as you get older, as you get more responsibilities and things on your plate and other business opportunities and things you want to explore and partake in. You want to be able to live off of this income. You want to be able to continue uh, getting that, and also you want to, your kids and family down the line. You want them to be able to have that set up for them, at the end of the day. So
And that's what's missing in this particular model. And this model is missing that. It's missing the earning in perpetuity. It's missing that.
right,
It's missing that. The only
it's too much.
the
It's
only
too much. It's too much one and done.
Yeah, it's too much one and done. And then I think the other situation again is like, we're putting way too much emphasis on YouTube content ID. That's not the only way for people to earn money, or off exploitation of a person's record. But let's switch gears a little bit. Um, you were telling me earlier about an artist who was asking about, when do I actually need to have a manager?
Yeah. That's funny. That's another thing that's it's almost like a clout thing, like it's something that makes you feel good. Oh, I got a manager, and the thing is, you got to have something to manage. you know,
It's facts.
you gotta have something going. A lot of people feel like, oh, you know, I could just go get a manager and they will open doors and make things happen. Like automatically. Like it doesn't necessarily work like that. You know, you have to put in some work, just like for a record label to notice you. You need to put in some serious work. And while you're getting these opportunities already, while things are starting to happen for you, and you're being starting to be bombarded with different things, and you're not really sure the direction to take or where to go or what's happening, that's when you start saying, okay, I think it's time that I'm going to need a manager that's going to help me organize what I already have going, and help plot out the direction that I need to go, as well as um, help me take my career to another level, and create some additional opportunities that's going to be beneficial to my goal. You know,
It's crazy with the manager talk, because it's like, um, from our experience when we were early on and we were managing artists, it turned into pseudo babysitting, right? Like I don't think artists really understand that you having you managing an artist is like almost essentially like you managing their lives. It's not just the music. It's like, because now you become invested in the success of that artist, and you want to make sure that they're not on the street doing dumb shit. Um, you know, and like you said, like what do we have to manage? And then also it's like we're talking about, um, do you have anything that you're earning, right? Like, are you earning anything at this point? So that's like, do you need a manager? I would say no, unless you got something going on.
but
And when I say something going on, like something significant, like you're starting to get traction on your music. Your music is now starting to, get on major playlists. You're starting to exceed, the half a million, going, trying to get to almost a million streams in any given platform. Um, because now we're talking about, okay, there's the potential of fans and the potential of earning income. There's also the potential of you being able to book a venue. If those things aren't present for a manager, um, it's not something that's really enticing for people to want to get into and get in bed with, because once you're locked into a management position, like I said, it's like adult babysitting.
now, on the other hand, if you have a crew, or that you're coming up with, and you're an artist that's coming up, and um, you know, you're assigning responsibilities to, I guess, people on your team, or each person on your team has their own role. Like you're coming up as an artist, and your guy is coming up as a manager, and you have that relationship where you guys are going to work towards the artist coming up as well as the manager coming up, then that's a different situation. There's a lot of guys that's independent, and they're trying to make their way, and they have a homeboy who's maybe good at networking or partying and good at that. Then that's a different situation, where you guys are coming up together. That's a whole where that manager is actually part of your team. That's a different situation, and that could be beneficial because you need as we said before, you need a team to help and make things happen. So in those situations, that could be beneficial.
And I guess in some cases you would say that that's like me double talk and say, well, you need a team, but you don't need you need a team, but you can't get a team unless you got something going on independently.
Well, it depends on what type of manager you're looking for, at the same time, because we're also looking at it for, okay, a person who is trying to do it all themselves, right? They don't have a team, but they're trying to do it all themselves, right? And they're doing it, and they're looking for a manager that's already established or looking for those type of managers. That's one aspect. But if you already have from the ground up, your guy, that's going to help you, then then you can say, what, let's work together and move up together, So that's, it just depends. Every situation is different. And you have to look at your infrastructure and be realistic. There are people out there that's not doing anything, and they say, "Hey, I just want a manager," and you're just like, "But you're not doing anything. You gotta put in the work. What are you doing? You want this big manager over here, but you're not doing anything."
And I think you hit the nail on the head when you say that. It's like, you don't have anything to quote unquote offer, right?
Right.
If we don't got anything to offer, like what are we really talking about when we're talking about in terms of a manager? What are some of the things that you would say a person should look for in a manager?
Well, the manager has to be able to, they got to want it as much or even more than the artist. They got to be organized. They got to be focused and driven. They need these key aspects in their character, that in order to help create opportunities and help make some deals happen. After that, they need to be have networking skills.
I was sitting on the tip of my tongue. Like, they need to be able to have good networking skills and not destroy the relationships that you might be potentially trying to grow.
Right. They got to be people that's sociable and be able to go out there and meet and greet. Be willing to open their mouth, know when to close it. They gotta be focused. Yeah, I think that's roughly the foundation. I would say.
I think you hit the nail on the head, man. And it's like, managers being detail oriented, being focused, wanting to go out there and get it done, and then having the appropriate social and networking skills. Like, to me, that's like paramount. That's going to be what really makes the difference between if you got a successful manager or somebody just kind of dragging your situation through the mud.
Right.
I guess as an artist now, we can kind of switch slightly of gears because we are talking about managers and we're talking about business structure.
Mm-hmm.
I guess another question that had came through was that when should an artist open a company, right? And I guess when we say a company, that would probably be either a corporation or LLC as an artist. And when do you think is the appropriate time for them to do that? I did see some recent interviews with like Steve Stout, and he was talking about the artist is no more. The artist now needs to be thinking as an entrepreneur. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, it's a business. The artist is a brand. The artist is, quote unquote, is a company. You know, um, Jay-Z said it best. When he said, "I am a business man."
Right, right.
you know, you're a business, and you have to operate as so, and you have to you need to put the right tools in front of yourself in order to make sure that you're uh, supporting that. So opening a business is something that, if you're going to do this thing seriously, if you're trying to make a career out of this for real, then you need to open up a business. You need to open up either LLC or whatever, and you know get started.
They would say be specific. What do we specifically need to do, guys? Like what's really, if the first thing is that if you don't have a company and you're putting out music, you're leaving money on the table, right? Because in order for you to collect your publishing revenue, you have to have a company to do that, right? You have to have a publishing company in order for you to collect the publishing portion of your revenue, and not just the writer share.
Now, some people would say, "Hey, why can't I just uh, give them my social security number and have them pay me?"
You can do that, but you're not going to get the protection, you're not going to get the, as they would say, the protection, the protection
Mm-hmm.
of a corporation. And then,
Mm-hmm.
of course, well, I can't really say tax benefits because LLCs and S&C corps have different tax structures, and it's going to depend on your tax preparer to determine what kind of benefit you're going to get from taxes.
Okay.
But you can do those type of things as an individual, sole proprietor if you'd like. But you know, in essence, that's still a company, right? In
Mm-hmm.
some way or fashion, you're treating yourself as an independent sole proprietor, and you're thinking at least in an entrepreneurial situation. I would always suggest to look to create a legal business entity with its own tax ID number so that it can be separate from you and your personal assets. In the case that you use somebody's YouTube beat and they come to sue you, you know what I mean? Because you got a lot of these people out here using YouTube beats and thinking that there's no repercussions. And listen, you blow up the right person's song, there's going to be repercussions, right? So it just kind of depends on what that situation is. But I think the artist has to think. Artists have to think differently. It's no longer I just make music. You are a brand. You are a business. Like you said, what Jay-Z said, I'm a businessman, and you have to carry yourself as such. And that's just what artists, and even with producers, right? Producers have to stop thinking as just producers.
Right.
You're also an artist, right? As a producer, you're also an artist, and producers should be looking to release their music as artists, and making sure that in some of their releases they're credited as artists and not just credited as producers. It changes the narrative a little bit if you're credited as a featured artist versus as a producer. One, it'll help to expand your fan base. Two, it'll help you to kind of get through some of the red tape that the Sound Exchange likes to give to people who aren't listed as a featured artist. And that's a real key that I just gave, and I hope the producers are listening.
And
Um,
it gives you access to analytics that you may not necessarily get.
Exactly. You may not be able to get see what the streams are, et cetera, because again, you're not featured on the record, so it doesn't come up in your catalog, in your Spotify, etc. And well, even if you're a featured artist, sometimes you might not come up. You have to come up as a joint artist, right? It has to be
Which comes down to your administrative,
right,
how they
how to release it,
right. So
so
that
forth and
goes
so
back
on.
to needing that nerd to make sure it's
but not only needing that nerd, that's the difference now between indie and that's the difference between indie and major, right?
Right.
Because if I see such and such artist on the street, and I say, hey man, I'm so forth and so on. I love the music. I want to see if I can get you on the feature. And he's like, all right, give me 5,000. Okay, right? You go, you max your credit card out, you get the session together, you get the 5,000, you get the feature. Now you go into TuneCore and DistroKid, and you try to upload that song. They be like, you got to have the agreement, or the artist got to tweet that you got to have their license, or you got to have something, and then you can't even use the feature because you don't have a quote unquote formal agreement. You just kind of did some street situation and you paid your little money for it, which a lot of artists are doing. They pay their little money for it and they'll let you feature. They'll be in your video, the whole nine, but they're not doing any contracts, right? And that's just the nature of the, especially hip hop. They're just not doing those contracts. They're not writing none of this paperwork. The stuff's just flying. Nobody wants to do any kind of paperwork, right? Everybody's like, because the lawyers are getting rich. It's cool, but at the end of the day, it's like nobody wants to do those type of agreements. So now it's like you're trying to get it distributed. You're trying to put it through the indie situation. They're not going to let you do it because they don't want to be liable for music that's not quote unquote right. They don't want to be the distributor of music that they don't have the rights to actually distribute. So you could actually pay for a feature and be in a situation where you can't even use the damn feature, right? Right. And then that's the difference between being with the indie versus the major. Because with the major, it's like they're gonna make you just check off the box and say, hey, are you good? Can you really distribute this? And they're gonna be like, yeah, and then that's it. There's nobody blocking it. That's another little key on that, but we
have to go back to that topic real quick
and let people really know, like, there's a difference between just because you got somebody featured on your record, that record doesn't show up on their Spotify as part of their releases. It just shows up. It just shows up as appears on, and depending on how long that list is, your song won't make it.
Right.
So it just kind of depends, but I guess you could say that's a topic that's a whole other in-depth topic. And I know that folks are going to want us to talk about a lot of those, in-depth kind of things to kind of look out for. And then also, get into copyright. We got some horror stories as far as copyrights are concerned and sampling. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff we could talk about in next more and in other episodes. But before we kind of wrap this up, what are you listening to right now?
The new Lloyd Banks. I'm rocking out to.
That's that New York shit.
Yeah, listen to that. But I'm listening also to the Lil Baby and Lil Durk.
That shit dope. That's
two. Those are the two that I'm really back and forth with right now. What about you?
I'm liking this Migos, man. I'm they're like, for real, yeah. I'm liking this Migos, man, and I'm feeling the growth. And that's what I
That's what I did notice that.
Yeah, I'm feeling the growth. I'm feeling the I'm feeling that there's always a point with us being from New York and us being in the golden era, right? Because we're talking about Loud Records, Def Jam. We're in the golden era. We produced during the golden era. We work with the seminal artists during the golden era in time, right? The peaks of the Wu-Tang, the peaks of the Nas's, the peaks of the Mobb Deeps, right? So we're talking about the Big Puns and everything, all that, And then we have the surging, the surging of the South. Boom, they coming. Here comes the trap music. It's like, wow, what is this shit? Okay, wow, this shit sounded kind of, oh man, And then there's like that initial sound that comes from the South, and like I don't want to misrepresent it, but what I think Migos is doing right now is, first they're making that music and it's more like a regional sound that just blows up.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see it's like more of a constructive, making the music more appealing to the entire mass. and not just a quote unquote regional sound. It still has Atlanta elements, but there's like records with Bieber and some other records that I thought were really dope. And it's like, okay, I see them now trying to making sure that their audience is definitely going to grow off of some of this music, and it's not just so much of a regional sound. So I really like what they're doing with it. I like what they're doing musically. I like what they're doing lyrically. A lot more metaphors, a lot more the lyrics are a lot easier to understand if you're not from here.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been out here for now over 10 years now. So for folks who may be from up north who may not be able to follow all of it, like now it sounds a lot more clear that you're like, okay, I can follow that a little bit better. And then what's the last thing? I think the only complaint that I might have, and I think you and I talked about it, was that the beats and the flows can sometimes become a little bit redundant.
Mm-hmm.
And some people will say, well, that's just their style. They're supposed to sound like that, But
you know what? But you know what? Also, not to cut you off, and they've made a complaint about this about other artists fighting their flow and styles. So it's like you're hearing it from other artists. So when you come back to them, it's like, oh,
yeah, so, that could be it. That could be it. That could be also like it's kind of like you kind of got ear fatigue because you've been listening to everybody else. But I sometimes hear them switch it up, and I hear them switch it up on some records, and I'm just like, okay, why don't I do a little bit more of that, And but definitely a tight body of work. I think it's pretty dope. So shout out to QC and them and what they're doing over there. That's we talked about that last week.
Did you see this new Megan Thee Stallion video? Thought shit.
I haven't seen it yet.
And I'm just wondering, like, she's really owning this, twerking visual thing, and it just makes you wonder how
much is too much.
No, but how long is this gonna last?
It's tough, man. Like, it's tough, man. Like,
Have you ever seen anything like this outside of maybe Luke?
I'm not. If I'm to be totally honest, I have a 6-year-old daughter. You know what I mean? And we the way we came up and the way that rap music influences our lives. It's I don't know. In my opinion, it could be slightly detrimental to a generation of girls. Just my opinion. You know what I'm saying? They're free to say what they want to say. They're free to ride it how they want to ride it. But it gets where how much is too much, and it's like, okay, we want to own these words, and we want to, it's kind of like us saying we want to own the N word, right? Like, yeah, do you really get to own that? Like, I don't know. That's more political, though, right? So I'm gonna kind of leave that, put a stamp in that. But I don't know if it's going to change music because she's now like the major influencer,
right?
So she's the major influencer. Cardi's the major influencer. It's going to change the landscape of music. Like, and every artist behind that now is going to kind of follow that blueprint, thinking that that's what they need for success. So I expect us to see this trend going for another 5, maybe 10 years. Interesting. Until folks decide that they want to come back and do the Sister Soldier again. But I don't really see that. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was really gearing at. Like, how far will where will it go? Like, when will it shift into something else? Despite however we may personally feel about it, just okay. We got this type of era of music. When will it expire? Like that type. And then what will happen if the artist, their career is based a lot on those things?
If you think about it, and we'll try to wrap up, but if you think about it, Instagram stories, Instagram reels, TikTok is geared to that now.
Right. Yeah.
Those platforms need that type of content in order for them to survive, right? If you remove if for some odd reason we said that the twerk music was all of a sudden, community guidelines and banned. Right. Like you can no longer do twerk songs. You can no longer show, partial nudity through, booty shaking and whatever that folks are doing. Like that's the only way that it changes. It wouldn't right now. Those things are what driving these platforms. Like that content drives these platforms. Like if you take that content off, you take off the IG model content, you take off that kind of content where that's where everybody's eyes is on right now. The twerk contest, the challenges,
right.
I want to swing from the chandelier. Right? Like all that other shit. Like if you remove that off those platforms, then you'll see a shift. But not right now. Like, and you can take it from young to old.
Right.
You go to your TikTok right now, you're gonna see people 40 plus, 50 plus,
wow,
doing challenging and twerk videos, and you're kind of scratching your head. You're kind of like, what's going on? Like, so. It's the Architect Beat Music Business Podcast, y'all.
Yep, that's it. That's our time.
Check us out, at www.architectbeats.com. You can follow us on all of the social medias at Architect Beats. And we'll be on Twitter. We're active there. Instagram, we're active there. Facebook, Architect Beats Music Online. I'm sorry, Architect Beats Online. That's our Facebook page, and then our group being the Architect Music Business, Architect Beats Music Business Group. Check us out on that. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe. We'll be releasing the content on a weekly basis, and there'll be some articles and some different things. And if you have questions, shoot us on the social media. Hit us either with DM or hit us on Twitter or Instagram and tag us, and we'll try to answer those questions and make sure that you get the information that you need. All right. Till next time, folks. I appreciate y'all.
Architect